friends, it's Alana, and today I am going to be taking you through my journey of finding an apartment in Los Angeles. So my roommates and I started looking for an apartment in late May, early June of this year, and we found an apartment towards the end of June, signed a lease, and that is where I am now. But the journey from A to B is lengthy. There's a lot of things that we had to do in order to secure this apartment, and I did film a lot of the apartment hunting process, so I'm going to be inserting clips from that journey into this video as we talk. But I kind of just basically wanted to tell you all the story of how we found this place, give you some advice if you're also looking to find an apartment in Los Angeles based off of what happened with me and my roommates. So if you saw my most recent video, it was the week in my life moving out to LA. That kind of explains more the situation about why I moved out here and all the events surrounding that. So if you're interested, be sure to check out that video. But basically, my roommates and I knew that we wanted to move to Los Angeles for about a year. We were waiting until we had saved up enough money and it was safer to move out here in terms of the situation with COVID and everything. So we set May 25th as our date to move out to Los Angeles, and we were staying with my friend Samantha's family while we were looking for apartments. In order to kind of get the process started before we even got here, we started looking for apartments that we wanted to tour on sites like apartments.com. Apartments.com was one of the main sites that we used to find places to tour, but there are a lot of other websites out there that you can look for apartments on. A lot of places will cross-post their listings on all the different websites though, so if you see a listing on apartments.com, it might also be on Zillow, for example. Before we even started looking for apartments, it was really important for us to set two things: a price range and a location range. Moving to Los Angeles is a very broad term. There's a lot of parts of Los Angeles, and even though it's all technically one city, if you are living in somewhere like Glendale and working in somewhere like Santa Monica, that's going to be a very, very long drive for you every single day. So you need to make sure that you are more central to where you need to be in terms of your work as well. I'm not going to tell you exact locations of where we were looking, but we knew going into it where Lauren, Samantha, and I were going to be working. I'm working from home still, but my job does have physical office location space here, and so if in the future I do need to go in, which I'm not sure is ever going to actually happen based on the nature of my work, I needed to make sure that it wasn't going to be like a super long drive, and it's not, so that's good. So looking at that criteria around work, we were able to narrow down a few neighborhoods in LA that we really wanted to look that were within our price range. Probably we had a very specific price range that we were willing to look between, and we could not go over it. Now there are some tips and tricks that you can look at to kind of work with your budget a little bit. So when we were moving, we realized that a lot of places had rent specials going on right now, which means they'll either deduct a certain amount each month from your rent, like $100 off a month, or a lot of places were doing first month free specials. So with that, we were able to put a little bit of flexibility in our budget, which is why in our search range we put it to a couple $100s over our budget, because if any of these places that were slightly over budget had move-in specials, we were then able to afford them, which was nice. So that's actually what happened with this place. We did book a couple tours that were outside of our price range that said they had move-in specials, but the move-in specials weren't enough for us to be able to still afford the places. So I would recommend, if the move-in special is not listed on the website, to call and ask if they can specifically tell you the details of the move-in special so that you're not wasting your time going and touring places that you're never going to be able to afford, unless you think that's fun. It was kind of cool to see some of these places, but we would not have been able to afford them, and so we ended up wasting several hours out of our days looking at some places that we thought we might be able to afford with a move-in special, but because we didn't know what the move-in special was beforehand, we found out upon arrival that we still would not be able to afford the place. So after setting our budget and our location range, we started really diving into looking at places. So in the week or so before moving out here, we set up a lot of tours with places in the area that we wanted to look. We basically searched up the apartments online, looked at the listings on like apartments.com, and then sent emails, texts, calls, and booked tours for when we finally got out here. The thing about apartment hunting in LA is that places pop up and disappear really quickly because people are always coming to LA and leaving LA. So unless you're really ready to start apartment hunting, I would recommend not putting as much focus into looking at places, because you could look at a place and then a week later it's taken. So the week that we came out here, we had a couple of apartment tours set up that we had basically booked through apartments.com. The first one that we went to was that situation where we had booked the tour tour a week earlier, and someone had beat us to putting in an application. They toured it before us, put in an application, and they got approved for it. So when we were touring it, we were basically told, hey, you're definitely not gonna get this, but thanks for coming. It was a really nice place, and we were kind of bummed, but it's the way it goes. The second place that we went to was really nice, in a great area, great walking distance from a lot of things, which was something that we wanted, but the rooms were really small. Once you figure out your budget and your location and you start looking for places, you also have to take into account the features that you're not willing to compromise on. So for Lauren, Samantha, and I, we wanted a 3-bedroom apartment. That was non-negotiable. The three of us all need our own space. So it was 3-bedroom or nothing. Now, we didn't care how many bathrooms were in the apartment. We were hoping for at least 1.5. We ended up with 2, which was really nice. There were some other things too. Had to have air conditioning. We preferred central air. We were willing to compromise on things like in-unit washer dryer because we were so used to having a laundry room in Chicago. So as long as it was on site, we were fine with it. So there were certain things we were willing to compromise and certain things we weren't. We made a list of things before we started looking, which is also really important. Usually when you're looking for places on sites like apartments.com, they'll list off things that are included in the apartment and things that aren't. Through touring these apartments, you kind of realize what you're gonna get out of your wants in what places and how far your money's gonna go in certain places. I'm just gonna put it point blank. Rent in Los Angeles is not cheap. Now, it helps to have roommates, which is why we were all able to afford this place, but it's still not cheap, even with roommates, because it's Los Angeles. Throughout apartment hunting, we realized that there was a give and take with 3 main things. 1 is location. 2 is a updated, really nice apartment, and 3 is amenities. So within our price range, we were finding apartments and apartment complexes that didn't have one of those 3 things. So there's a give and take, and especially with your first apartment, you're not gonna find everything that you ever wanted, especially if you're working on a pretty strict budget like we were. Your first apartment, I think it's more important if you're looking at things practically. So practically speaking, this apartment was the best choice for us. The building doesn't have amenities like a pool or a gym, but it has a really nice, modern, updated apartment. The rooms are big, the kitchen's beautiful, we've got a little balcony, like it had everything practically that we needed, and it's in a great location for our work. After we had been on our first few apartment tours, we kind of realized more so of what we were looking for in an apartment, because as you tour more places, you realize more, okay, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. We were touring apartments for about 3 weeks, which felt like a really long time because when you're looking for a place to live and you're not finding one right off the bat, it's kind of stressful. Luckily, we did have a place to stay with Samantha's family, but the apartment hunting process was not an easy or fast one. So after a few weeks of looking, we went on an apartment tour. The day was kind of a bust. We started in the morning looking at an apartment that we didn't really love, and then we had a second tour set up for a townhouse actually that we were really excited to see, and then that tour got canceled, and so we came back home. We were kind of dejected, so we started sitting down and looking at more apartments online that we could, potentially set up tours for. Samantha found this one on one of the websites and contacted the realtor. The website had just posted the listing for this apartment that same day. Like, it had been maybe an hour since the listing went live. Samantha found it, and then we were sitting and having dinner, and just as we were finishing up dinner, Samantha got a text message from the realtor saying, do you ladies want to see it now? It was around 7:30, and we all kind of just looked at each other like, oh my gosh, like, should we go now? Can we go? Because they weren't really doing tours on the weekends. We're like, maybe we could go like Monday? I don't know. And Samantha's mom was like, no, you guys should just go now. So we just kind of looked at each other and we were like, all right, I mean, this could either go really well or be a disaster. But you know what? Either way, it sounds like a fun story. So we were all already like in our sweatpants and pajamas and stuff. So we changed really quickly, got back into Samantha's car and drove to where the apartment is. Good evening. Sam found an apartment that's very nice, and she contacted them and they responded immediately and said, how about a tour right now? So
right now.
Very second. They're very excited. So we got in the car. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and we are heading to this apartment.
This could either be a great cute neat story or the beginning of a horror story.
Yeah, so this is either gonna go really well or be terrifying. We'll keep you posted.
Get an apartment. Oh, we're gonna die.
We got here, the realtor was waiting for us in front of the building. She was super nice. She brought us into the building, brought us up to the apartment, and the second we entered this apartment, I just had this overwhelming feeling like this is it. This is the one. Very weird to say, but I just had not had this feeling about any of the other apartments that we had toured, and I just had this intuition. I was like, this is the one. This is our new home. It just had pretty much everything we were looking for. Such a nice place, and it had just gone up on the market. So we were the first people to tour the place. So this was a Thursday that we toured this apartment, and the realtor said that if we got our applications in sometime on Friday, we had a really good chance of being approved for the place because we would be the first applicants, but that they had more tours lined up, and so if we didn't start the process, it was probably gonna go really quickly because there was a lot of interest in the place. And so I just got this immediate, like, panicky, like, no, this is our place feeling when she said that. That same night, she actually took us to another building on the same street that was owned by like the same company to show us an apartment in that place, and that was really nice too. It was a different vibe than the one that we're in here. This place just had a modern, brighter feel. The other place was a little bit darker. It was nice, but this place definitely felt more for younger people, and that other place that we saw felt more like a family place, if that makes any sense. Both places were really nice, but we decided to apply to this apartment. So we requested the application from the realtor, and we spent a majority of Friday filling out all of the application paperwork, getting all of our necessary documents together. We're 23 years old, fresh out of college pretty much, never rented a place that was not student living. So when we were living in Chicago prior to this, it was in an apartment, yes, but it was a dorm. It was through our school. So we'd never gone through the apartment application process like this before. We had never done any of this. And it was really exciting, but it was also really terrifying because we didn't really know 100% what we were doing. We were submitting all this stuff, filling everything out. They were a little hesitant, honestly, at first because we were so young to rent us. And I don't know if that's a common thing, but they were kind of concerned that we were gonna be like party people because we were so young, and we were like, no, we definitely are not gonna be throwing lots of parties or anything. There might be the occasional screaming over a television show, but that's probably about it. Maybe an intense Uno game, like we have those a lot. So we submitted our application on Friday, and then because people weren't working over the weekend, we heard back on Monday that we had been approved, and it was really, really exciting. We had to write a check for our security deposit, which was basically just like a month's worth of rent. I know different places have different things that they require for their security deposit. A lot of places do first month and last month rent. Some places do even more than that, but this was just 1 month of rent for our security deposit. So as we were getting all of this pulled together to get ready to actually sign the lease, we did request to see the apartment one more time during the day before we signed anything, because when we saw the apartment the first time, it was in the evening, and so everything was pretty dark, and we just wanted to see what it was like during the daytime. So Samantha and I came during the day. Lauren was still at work, but we sent her like videos of what the apartment looked like during the day and everything. Samantha and I came with Samantha's mom and sister and just kind of looked at everything in the daylight again, took measurements of everything so we could start getting ready to furnish the apartment. Still not 100% furnished. Don't think it will be for a while. Furniture is very expensive.
Absolutely. That's bigger than the one she has now. She's not upgrading. It's not fair. So this is gonna be my room. Mom, I'm moving in here instead. She can take my old bedroom. This is gonna be my window.
So after coming back and seeing it in the day, we were even more certain, like, okay, yeah, this is definitely the place. The day that we came back and saw it in person, we saw it in the afternoon, and in the morning we had already set up 2 other apartment tours like the week prior before we even saw this place. We went on those just because we already had them set up, just to make sure that there was nothing else we were missing. And the other 2 apartment tours that we went on were nice. The places were nice. They just didn't fit our needs as well as this place did. Everything really did fall into place with this apartment. I think we got really, really lucky that Samantha found it when she did, and that we actually came here that time we got that text that night and didn't wait to tour it, because if we had waited to tour it, we definitely would not have gotten this apartment. There was a lot of other interest in it, which makes sense given the location, the price, how nice the apartment is. We really just got very, very lucky with finding this place when we did. It was all about the timing of it. So if you are looking for apartments in LA and you have been looking for a while and you're getting discouraged, just keep looking. It does get discouraging when you're looking for weeks and you're not finding any places that you really click with, but when you do find a place that you click with and you submit an application, the process goes super, super fast after that, because like I said at the beginning, places in LA pop up and disappear very, very quickly. There's a very high turnover here of people leaving and people coming, and so just keep at it. You will find your place. So that's the story of how we found and secured this apartment. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions about apartment hunting in LA, I'm by no means an expert, but if I know the answer, I'll try to answer the question down below. In my next video, I'm going to be showing you an empty apartment walkthrough when we were first moving in and some of the move-in process that we went through to get a bunch of our stuff up in the apartment. So be on the lookout for that, as it will be part 3 in the moving series. This was part 2. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time with part 3. Bye!